Welcome to the church, volume 2. Exclusive 213. Got my nephew Nate Dogg in the house. Nate Dogg, holla at him, where you at?
Riding in my car. And I'm listening to
The art of constructing effective and balanced CrossFit programming and intermediate level. So we've covered the beginner level, not necessarily just what's in the program, but how to construct a program. And now we're just going to take one layer further than what we've seen previously. By and large, I mean, it could feel like it's pretty similar, but throughout this video, you'll start to understand some of the nuances that have changed up or have been added. And one most in particular for me is the consistency of what we're going to see. So as a micro view, you have day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6. There's a kind of mesoscope on it. You've got a week total, and then you can even break that down into like what's a specific piece within a session. We've gone back to some of the terminology from the previous video. So WL is weightlifting. We've got some skills, so we've added in the complexity. We've got some gymnastics. We've got weakness. We've got what we call successory. Successory is accessory. It's just our play on the word. And now it's quite common out there, just so that it's one of the components that, for me, actually, let me highlight this first and foremost. Successory. It's generally done at the end of a session or at the beginning of a session. It's not the thing that's going to cost you your lungs or your mental capacity to get through. So it's usually something that's pretty slow and kind of methodical in a session. They have certain purposes. We look for either bodily health function. We look for targeting or isolating a certain muscle group. We look for a certain range of motion. And it's just connecting a brain to muscle connection there. And generally when you get into like a metcon per se, you're working at high intensity and then the brain just doesn't have the capacity to do so. And again, the movements are probably more full body, fast paced, duration type movements rather than this accessory work. We're really isolating, honing down those little micro skills and microfibers to benefit that area as well. I think that it's very important that you have to move slow and patient to be able to move fast and explosive, and basically it's the preparatory work or the supplementary work to assisting in the full picture of what a good program should entail. So that's been added. I don't know if that was in last time. And then so the outline of the week is there. What you will see, so last time we went through, each day is different in a beginner level program. You're just trying to get some exposures. In this per se, when constructing an intermediate level programming, for me personally, I love consistency, and again, I'm a stickler for consistency, so much that this weightlifting day here will be the same consistent weightlifting day all throughout the program. So let's say this is a 6-week block. This won't change so much. At least the ethos or the design or the intended stimulus or adaptation that we're trying to garner from that, it won't change. The difference in this program compared to the beginners program is that we have actually made more of the same thing. So we're not moving out too far from a scope of trying to train and really hone in on a developmental tool here. So let's look at it. On day 1, you have a primer, and a primer, for those that don't know, is something that's going to connect you to the movement pattern. It's going to be a derivative of the full movement, so it's going to be little sections and blocks of the movement. For this example, on day 1, we're going to be doing snatch work. Our primer is going to be a tall snatch plus a snatch balance. So the goal here is to develop speed and timing underneath the barbell, generate as much vertical power and force production as possible with a minimal leg drive or bar height to gain that from, fluidity into the transition of the squat and the snatch, building better positions, not jumping forward, finding all those little cues and things like that. Standing up out of that squat, so you've built that portion of the movement, then you go into a snatch balance, focusing on quick speed to tension beneath the barbell, and then the receiving position of the catch as well, of highlighting or hopefully also engaging a tight full elbow lockout and active shoulders when you receive the bar. You will then take that primer, and there would have been a warm-up prior to that, into the lift. So by the time you have got to the lift, you should be at least 20 minutes before you're even there of just preparatory work to get there. For this specific board breakdown, I have gone with, like, there's so many themes of how you can construct a program. Like, are you going to look for a technical mastery type of loading, so then we get better technique out of the user, or are we going for strength? Are we putting something on the back burner in moderation and then focusing on developing our gymnastics or something like that? For this specifically, our percentage work for our snatch in this program won't start below 70%. So that is upon the threshold of where I like to do technique work. It's where form can break down, but we can also have enough load on the bar to develop and elicit good adaptation, and then just to get some real good success out of that. So it's an EMOM for 10 minutes. You're to do one snatch every minute at 70 to 75%. That's 10 total snatches at 70% or more. You could do that in 5 sets of 2 or potentially 2 sets of 5, but just that fatigue factor is going to help break down the movement as well. Just note that this is day 1, week 1. By week 6, this might be a 5-minute EMOM, 1 rep at 90-95%. Like this, that's how they can have linear progression there and for that to build. Now, we're honing on a theme of weightlifting multiple sections. So we've added in a snatch pull, and we've really ramped up the percentage here. It's at 100% of your 1 rep max snatch. So we're overloading principle here. We're finding really good form in the positions from the floor. So the first pull through to the middle, the second pull right till hip contact. Having awareness in those positions, overloading that so that when you come back down to say an 80% snatch, that first pull from the floor, the body has trained itself to be like, oh, this isn't so bad because I've done more than this. And then you can generate speed from there. The Metcon for this day, now, it is a 3-part Metcon. It's for time. The rep scheme is 21, 15, 9, 6, and 3. And we have a hang power snatch, which I would class under weightlifting. We have a row for calories of those same numbers, which would be considered monostructural. And we have toes to bar, which would be considered gymnastics. So it's an all-rounded mixed modal workout. The target time is between 11 and 12 minutes. The time cap is 15. The hang power snatch is at a barbell load where you should be able to see your user go anywhere between 1 and 3 sets. If there's more than 3 sets, I think that the barbell is going to be a bit heavy. The row should be done in moderation because the limitation here should be either gymnastics skill component or the barbell snatch. So you're going to row at a theme in this workout where those two can kind of stay intact and hit your numbers and requirement without resting too much, even though you're hitting, say, 7, 7, 7 on the toaster bar to get your 21. But if you're resting 30 seconds between, which is going to be a minute total, I don't think that that's the appropriate way to do it. So you're going to row at a moderate pace to allow yourself to kind of get through these rep schemes a little bit faster, or work on those either side of the rower. Once you've completed that workout, we've got that accessory work we talked about earlier, connecting that brain to muscle connection. And like if you do, let's say, train 5 days a week, and out of the 52 weeks of the year, you train 40 weeks. And there's 200 training sessions there. For every time you miss this accessory, and this accessory here, we have only 2 sets of 2 movements, 10 dumbbell rows on each side, 30 banded good morning, so that's 40 reps. Two rounds of that is 80 reps. You multiply that by your 200 sessions, I don't know what's the number there, 16,000 repetitions across a year. If you're just willfully walking out the door and not ticking that off, like that's going to take you, that specific one right there, 4 minutes. 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Add the 4 minutes in, add the 5 minutes in. Not only are you going to get your bodily health function, not only are you going to get those little basic, the smaller muscle groups to be able to move, not only are you going to decompress from the high intensity work and then put your body into a better state once you're finished, you're going to get 16,000 reps that are left on the table if you've walked out the door every single day, because that's not important, because that's not that hard as opposed to that, or I put so much energy into that I just cannot do this. Just get up, make a start. It doesn't have to be glamorous weights, and they're not asked for that generally, so just make a start. That's my encouragement first and foremost on this accessory portion of any program. Okay, moving on to day 2. Generally for me, when I program weightlifting in a cycle, unless we're like heavily focused on one component of the lift, like snatch or is it the clean and jerk or whatever, they'll usually work in conjunction beside each other. So I have the clean and jerk in the same formatting as I have the snatch here for today. So it's going to be an EMOM for 10 minutes. You're going to perform one clean and jerk. The percentage here is 65 to 70% as opposed to 70 to 75%. Reason being why this percentage is slightly less is because the maximal load that the body can handle for a snatch versus a clean and jerk is different. So a clean and jerk usually outweighs or outperforms your snatch anywhere between 20 and 30% of the total lift. So then just as the damage to the bodily structure is effectively more to the CNS than it is there. Not only that, it's a two-part movement, it's a two-part component, meaning you'll clean to the shoulders first and foremost, and then you will perform the split jerk, bring the feet back together. That repetition there in total could take you anywhere between 8 to 12 seconds, whereas this could be over in 3. So just the time of duration of the rep means less recovery in that clock, in that window, means more damage to the CNS, and so that's why there's a play on, even though it's same theme, it's not just going to be a direct same number transfer or percentage of the barbell. And your primer, one muscle clean, so this is focusing on like really good hip extension, extremely good turnover with the barbell and a high pull as well. Front squat just to groove out the squat pattern of the movement, and then a split jerk. For today, because we're going for another double weightlifting session, like instead of mimicking them straight across and having snatch pulls go into clean pulls, because then that's pull from the floor, like, and it's not impossible. You can definitely do that. I would say do that in relation to like the totality of your weekly construct though. This one we've gone for a squat component instead of the pull. So for this one, 4 times 3 at 80%, and we already know based on our first video that the 80% is already working in your strength bracket. You're getting 12 good reps at 80% or more, which means that we should be driving up the muscle recruitment pattern or muscle recruitment motor units per week to develop better quad strength and stress to get your strength in the front squat. Then we have conditioning. Conditioning basically for this is going to, it's monostructural-esque. Mono meaning single, structural meaning consistent. You have a 20-minute maximum bike test for calories. The calories are going to be your score. Just to make this a little bit of a play on CrossFit and to keep the theme of this, we have every 4 minutes, including 0, you will perform 100 double unders. So you'll 3, 2, 1, go, 100 dubs, then you'll get on the bike, push it to the 4-minute marker, 100 dubs. You'll go with the 8-minute marker dubs, 12 and 16. So that'll give you your 5 and your 500 double unders. But your score only is going to be the bike calories. So how efficient are you at getting on and off those double unders? And then what's your type of pacing that you have to hold on the bike? Do you start out at, let's say, 65 cadence as a goal, and then you fall off to 60? How does that damage you mentally? Do you go to 58? How soon does this happen? Do you start at 60 and you think, no, I'm okay, I'll go up to 62 after 8 minutes? There's so many different ways to skin the cat, and not just workout per se, but how do I work out? So anyone can just get this completed, but you can get there 300 different ways. You know, do I break my double unders into sets of 20 every time? I get to 20, quickly break, step over, go again. Am I looking to do 100 dubs, take a sip of my water bottle, then get back on my bike? Am I breaking my bike into intervals? Am I kind of going with a 10-second hard effort, 30-second active recovery effort? Or am I just holding a constant pace? Like, there's so many ways you can break that down. So essentially the theme that we have here, we've gone with day 1 hard, day 2 hard in terms of intensity requirements or loading or fatigue levels, and then day 3 we're going to drop off to moderate, and that moderate is going to be gymnastics, but we're focusing on some skill positions to work with. So much the same as a primer for your weightlifting, you will have a primer per se for your gymnastics. And for today we're going to do 4 rounds of a 10-second hollow hold, good shape, good tension, 10-second hollow rocks, move that through dynamic range, flip it over, 10-second Superman hold, 10 seconds of Superman rocks, and then 3 times perfect ring swings. That would lead us into 1 minute maximum repetitions of ring muscle ups, and then you'll have a 3-minute rest, and we'll do that for 4 to 5 sets. you're going to have a tip there if you're going to go no more than 12 reps, and that 12 reps should take you up to about anywhere between 48 and 55 seconds ish. If you're not on that end of the scope, you'd have an option there to either try get like say 2 doubles in, so start on the 0, go at the 40-second marker to try clock some in on the end of that clock, or it might be an AMRAP for 15 minutes, do a max set, rest 3 minutes. It might be have 15 minutes, focus on these drills, have these amount of attempts, get some over the rings and things like that. So generally when we program the skill specific stuff alone, there might be 3 or 4 options suited to the ability of the user, because often you'll look at that and you're like, well, that's just out of reach, and because it's out of reach, I just won't do it. And so if I just don't do it, when am I ever going to get it? So I have to, as a programmer, put things in place that allow the user to be able to identify, well, if I can't do that, I'm just not going to do it at all, because at some point I'm going to be required to do that. So I need to just slot in the level where it best fits me. And then to add to that, we just made a video recently speaking about, because I'm doing the 15 minutes of drills and I'm a long way off doing 12 per minute with 3-minute rest, it shouldn't deter away from the fact that I'm still using that to develop, to gain towards that type of efficiency. And if I still complete my 15 minutes of drills, and yes, I've moved some dirt and I've gotten better at the skill, don't be depressed and be hard on yourself and look down on it that well, this 15 minutes of work that I did was still irrelevant because I still can't do that. Like, so it's not good work. It's such a self-degradation type of mentality that the work that you're doing is still just considered not good work from the work that you're not doing. So just dismiss that altogether, please. Okay, that being said, moving on to your next component here, you have a Metcon. Following our theme, Metcon, 3 rounds for time, 20 handstand push-ups, 400 meter run, 20 box jump overs. So the whole idea of this day was gymnastics loading. We wanted a moderate CNS loading as well, so there was no heavy weights that were going to kind of deplete your energy of that. You could still be feeling the fatigue from the snatch pulls on Monday for all we know, especially the front squats from day 2. So less loading, light resistance, or low impact light resistance. Your body is basically the moving pattern here. It's got a target time here of 14 minutes and a time cap of 17. Basically split that run up, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. You've got 6 minutes of your time cap there, and then 20 box jump overs done consistently. I mean, you're gonna look at about 1.8 to 2.2 seconds. So you can just allow for some fatigue factor there. So you're gonna push that up to about 90, well, not even 90 seconds, maybe about 1:15, so about 3:45 for your box jump overs, and you're now at 9 something, and then 60 total handstand push-ups, and 60 total is a lot different to 3 times 20 with stuff in between. So it's really going to depend on like the efficiency of the user here. The score could get as low as 10, 11 minutes, but I think just to be a little bit friendly, like it would have a little bit of a scheme there. The handstand push-ups, I wouldn't look to get those done unbroken. Like, yes, you could, but the requirement for this workout doesn't necessarily need to have that. So just because you can't do those unbroken doesn't mean you immediately have to go down to like, well, I'll just do 10 reps or I'll just do 5 reps because I just want to get them unbroken. I would say no less sets than 5 reps. If you're doing less than 5, then one, either decrease range of motion, keep the rep scheme, or if you're just figuring out that surface level for the first time, you might just hit 15 reps in total, so you're going to get it 45 through the workout. Or you might start, well, hey, yes, we know that these are going to break down, but we'll just see what happens. Well, how about we just predetermine a better outcome for you? So the handstand push-ups, we might do round 1 at regular surface, and then we're going to add a decreased range of motion, or a plate, or take the plates away, put a plate underneath our abdomen, decrease that range for the 2nd and 3rd sets. Just so that we're kind of still chasing that dangling carrot and getting the next skill, the press aggressive skill that's in front of us, by not ruining the intention or stimulation of the workout. And so then we can also keep it around that theme of the time cap as well. Then on the Wednesday, we're going to choose a weakness option, and I haven't necessarily descripted what the nuance piece would detail, but just as a theme of understanding, it might be a run, it might be a lift of some sort, or it might be a gymnastics component. And those are going to be programmed in, so then it can also fit and match this stuff here. So it doesn't not make sense. So it's not going to be, Well, it's a lift and it's going to be front squats, and we just did front squats yesterday. So it will be themed around what you have done and what's coming. If you're the best squatter in the gym but you can't run, you're the 81st best runner, it's probably like, well, let's leave the squat on the table and pick up the run. That should make pretty good sense. Excuse me. Day 4 is not here. It's here. It's a recovery day with options. So the options, there's so many things. So for us, we either have full rest day. We've done this lot of work. That's a lot of work. We can catch up a piece in the week. So if we missed this section for whatever reason, we might put that on the day 4. If we know we're not going to be here on this day, we might pull that into day 4. That's what a catch-up piece would look like. What else have I got? Would have 2 different engine style pieces. One just complete machine based, and then another that's going to be low impact, light movements, wall balls, maybe some running, skipping, kettlebells, burpees, different variations of burpees, just as another engine building capacity factor, but nothing that's going to detriment the following day's training. So it's going to be recoverable, and that's what I mean when I say, low resistant, light impact. It's not necessary that this is still going to be a factor tomorrow on day 3 to go into day 4, but it's more likely that the heavy loading of CNS damage on day 2 would be there. And then we'd have a swimming option as well. And okay, cool. Day 5, I've gone for weightlifting components times 2 once more. Now, I'm building raw strength here in the powerlifting world. We would usually design a bench press and we would couple that with either the deadlift or the back squat. We often wouldn't go back squat, deadlift same session depending on loading, because if you're going to give maximal load to, say, your back squat, which is, it's a lower body exercise, but it's a full body exercise. There's so much tension through the thoracic that needs to be taken and through the trunk and depletion there that requires the same in the deadlift. So depending on load management, what is going to be paired together, because you're going to either compromise one for the other. So there's been times, and just to iterate there, the biggest back squatter I've ever coached, we got from 240 kilos to 420 kilos. It was unfathomable. So what we had to do is we had to figure out, in the program, where are we going to put the deadlifts versus the back squat? Because the back squat wasn't only affecting the deadlifts if they were on the same day, it was affecting the deadlifts for 2 days thereafter, and vice versa, because of the sheer load that was given to the movement and what it was asked for. It means that it can't be coupled together, or it kind of has to be spaced around certain things, or it might even just have to go in the back pocket and just wait its turn for another 6 weeks before we actually develop that construct. And I don't think that, in CrossFit, I think that's such a missed concept of how programming actually works. People just think do more, get more, be more. It's so far away from the actuality of it all. You could be putting in 100% work of 8 hours a day, and you might even be a better athlete and get better results if you only did 4 hours a day. Funny that it's just not always the case of like more equals more. So anyway, we've comprised these 2 together. So you've got your bench press, your deadlift. From the first video, the beginner video, nice and simple construct of strength development here, 5 times 5, 70%. That's a building block there. And then moving on to your workout, and this workout is a mixed modal once again. So you've got your gymnastics being bar muscle up, thruster being weightlifting, bar facing burpee is monostructural. The time domain here differs from that of the other sessions. This could be as low as sub 10, this could be sub 10, but it's around 11, this is up around 14, 15, this is a 20-minute block, this is near 30. Of a mixed modal construct, so far different doing a 30-minute mixed modal than it is doing a monostructural. 1 bar muscle up, meaning that no bar muscle up should be failed in this workout. 2 thrusters, 3 bar facing burpees. How fast could you really do this unbroken, just that little section? You're going to jump up for your bar muscle up, come down, 2 thruster, 10 seconds, 3 bar facing burpee. You're going to be about 16 to 18 seconds for a round at your fastest pace. However, that's just not likely that this is going to happen throughout. Setup and gear placement is going to matter a lot. Transition time, just remembering what round you are on. But essentially, the time cap is being derived from, like, well, what if it took an EMOM plus some change? So I think that that's pretty friendly there. The target time is below an EMOM, but you could definitely get this in like 30 seconds per round throughout the whole thing, which could land you on, I think I've got my caps way out actually. What have I got here? No, yeah, it could land you on 15 minutes, doing it every 30 seconds. So it's such a big range of discrepancy for the user, but I think this as a general overview of who's using it, then that's what I'll be looking at. The totality of the numbers was a factor in which this workout was written. I wrote it as 20 rounds for time. I went 1, 2, and 3, just as the rep schemes aren't always 21s and 20s and 20 minutes and 50 reps of this, so you kind of have to like navigate and introduce different ways of having total volume the same, but how do you kind of drip feed that to the user. So originally it was 20 rounds, and then I wrote 1 bar muscle up, 2 thruster, 3 bar facing burpees, and that gave me a total of 20, 40 and 60, but it wasn't enough. And the reason being is that section there would be less than Fran, which can get down to 2 minutes, and then this section, 60 bar facing burpees, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. So it'd be about a 7-minute workout. Adding on another 10 rounds, it's going to double that and put that into this round here. Day 6, this accessory for this. Now, it's not always just the rows and the RDLs and the scapular functionalities and all these things. This one today is built to a heavy 10-meter sled push. So the first sled, it's going to be a 20-kilo plate or whatever. Push it down, add a plate, push it back, add a plate, push it back, until finally you get to that heavy number, which is going to drip feed back into being a supplement for our deadlift. For our trunk, thoracic extension, and obviously through our lower body and power force production. Finally, on day 6 of your intermediate level outlook, excuse me, going back to day 4, you had an easy day, which was day off. Day 5, moderate day, so that was what we just seen here. And then day 6 is a hard day, knowing that you're going to go into a rest day. In this, actually, just microcosm on, or even macrocosm on this, these will change week to week depending on what's going on. So some weeks it might be hard. Next week it might be medium, hard, or moderate rather, easy, moderate. It depends on what we're asking out of the session and the timeline of the program. And the main thing is that we're always trying to keep a grip on how to keep you moving forward with your training, how we can abstain from plateauing, how we can still keep it invigorating, interesting, stimulating, and then just away from injury. So if you go too hard too long, injury is going to bound up, mechanics will get lost out the door, and just the exposures to that just isn't good for anybody. Okay, so day 6, final day of this training week. Day 7 would be a rest day, full rest day. In 10 minutes, build to a 3 rep max hang snatch. In the next 10 minutes, build to a 3 rep max back squat. Now let's cut this up. So we really wanted to get a second day exposure of the snatch and the clean and jerk, right? Now, I'm not the biggest fan of not necessarily having percentage works and targets built in. Like if you go into the gym every single day and you just try and max out a 1 rep max, 2 rep max, 3 rep max, 10 rep max, whatever, I don't think that's the most conducive way to getting stronger. However, they are good to having tests on the board and like little metrics, and maybe you do get a max that you've never done before and it's good exposure in that sense. I chose that so then there wasn't no pressure to hit a certain percentage on this day. It's going to be governed off whatever you were able to do. You might go over the percentage that was intended for the day, that's fine. And so the back squats, supplementing the front squats over here is our second squat day. They're not going to be so compromised by the deadlifts the day before, just in the manner of the percentage that they were given. and it's just a little test markers to see where we're going to fit with our numbers right now, and then also again doubling up on that squat variation. From there, we're going into a cadence capacity construct. So we're going to do EMOM for 6 minutes, 1 rope climb, so you get up the rope, touch the top, come down, 3 wall walks, rest whatever remains in that clock. The EMOM isn't so long, but that's going to be pretty tough by the end of that. And even if the capacity was there for you, we changed the theme to cadence. So not just, can I get through this in 6 minutes? Like, yeah, you probably could do a rope climb, and then at 30 seconds do 3 wall walks, and then might take 6 seconds a piece, and you've got another 12 seconds to go before your clock starts. Or if that's going to be super achievable for you and the patterns and mechanics are going to stay intact the whole way through, let's put some time pressure on that. Let's do every round as fast as possible. You might go up the rope, come down, do 3 wall walks in 23 seconds and have 37 seconds worth of rest, but the damage is going to outweigh the time spent. So that's how we pick up on our cadence. When the sport can often be who can do X amount of work the fastest. Finally, the Metcon for the week, you got an AMRAP for 10 minutes. Kept it pretty simple. 40 crossover single skips with 15 wall balls, and that's just going to be monotonous for 10 minutes. Doubling down, supplementing the back squat by doing leg work. You know, you walk into a bodybuilding gym or a bodybuilding program, powerlifting, and you might have, I need to change my pen. You might have back squats as section A, you might have RDLs, then you might have hip thrusts, then you might have Bulgarian split squats with dumbbells, and then you might do 3 rounds of 10 box jumps for power output, hip extension, and 20 meter walking lunge. I think this is one of my biggest secrets, is the workouts will often generally feed this as a supplement the same way a general strength program will. Why am I going to design something that's going to be contrasting or butting heads against that? I want to feed as much of the session back into the same schematics, back into the same adaptations, back into the same stimulus functions, back into the same muscle groups as I possibly can, without either 1, overloading it ridiculously, 2, giving it exposures to injury by just having inappropriate rep schemes, or sequencing, squatting below parallel for X amount of reps in a single session, those types of things. But for the most part, how am I going to feed that? And then if I'm going to have something that's on the opposite side of the spectrum or super far away from it, like the wall walks versus the back squats, they're not touching each other. That means that I can get good usage out of that. That means that that's not going to be impacted by that regardless of that, or that regardless of this, should still have the same outcome. This might be compromised by this, but then again, it's generally pretty well warmed up because we've gone through primer, we've gone through warm up to specifically target this, and then that it should have good transfer over to this. Now, at the end of your 10-minute AMRAP, we have a 7-minute section to build to the heavy clean and jerk, because we didn't forget the theme of what we were trying to build over here, right? So we got our second clean and jerk session in the week. We had our second snatch over here. How do you theme it? How do you build it? How do you provide more exposures to the same things to develop good constructs? So that's an intermediate level looking at the programming. It's definitely one layer or a couple of layers added on to the beginner's level, and then the next video will show the advanced level.